There are two types of people when it comes to health and wellness. They're either eating healthy and doing everything right and maybe not getting results, or they're so confused that they don't even know what healthy is. Which are you? Welcome to the Women Rockin' Midlife Podcast, Soulful Wellness to Elevate Your Second Act. Hi, I'm your hostess, Jen Kunkel, and this is the podcast dedicated to empowering you to live your best life in midlife and beyond on your own terms with optimal wellness, peak energy, and a sense of lightness and adventure. Hey, how are you doing today? I recently finished up a trip with my great nephew. He is 6, so that was fun. My mom, my aunt, and my cousin, we actually went to Cincinnati for a group excursion. It was a really good time. At first I thought, what's in Cincinnati? We went to a couple of museums, a theme park with a water park. I thought, how are we going to do both of those in one day? We managed. We only ended up spending an hour at the water park though. And then we actually went to a Cincinnati Reds baseball game. My first Major League Baseball game. I'm not into sports at all, so no big deal. But it was really fun watching my little 6-year-old nephew get totally into it. He was chanting, actually. So it was funny. It was really adorable. We had a great time. My aunt and my cousin from Wisconsin drove down and met us, and I hadn't seen my cousin in probably a few years, so it was really good to see her. So funny when you see relatives or friends that you haven't seen for a long time, and it just seems like you've been around each other all the time. You don't miss a beat. So some of this, family time, really good for the soul. I highly recommend it. If you're taking things too seriously, if you're taking life very seriously and you're not taking time for yourself, take some time, right? It's very good for you. I got caught up. I got ahead actually on some of my work, so I didn't really have to worry too much about doing work, which was great because our schedule was totally packed. So it's easy to do that sort of thing if you set your mind to it. Always workoutable, right? Okay, so today we're talking about when you maybe think you're eating really healthy, you're doing all the right things, and maybe you're not getting results, or you're just super confused and you don't even know what healthy is. I have heard this before. You're doing everything right. You're eating healthy, you're exercising, you're cutting calories, and you're not losing weight, or you have health issues, or you're low on energy, or like I said, you're just super confused and you don't even know where to start. So you think you're eating healthy and maybe you're not sure. And then of course, there's the third kind of person that is eating healthy, doing everything right, and getting the results and knows what's up. So let's make sure we all funnel into that third category. So what's the deal when this happens? And I'm gonna just kind of let you off the hook a little bit because it's really not your fault. It is your responsibility though, and I've talked about that before. Personal responsibility, where you see the issue and you recognize the source of it, or you start to figure it out and you can move forward in a different way. However, you don't want to beat yourself up for being in that situation in the first place because it can be really challenging, and here's why. We are so conditioned by the way society functions and how everyone else is doing things. It's like the human mind and psyche and the way we think and the way we behave is really malleable, and it's highly influenced by what's going on around us. So you see a product in the grocery store, right? And you assume it's perfectly safe to eat. Maybe you have some general idea about whether it's healthy or it's not as healthy, but you figure it's safe, it's okay. Our bodies are going to process it, and there maybe the worst case scenario is you're going to gain a pound or something. There are agencies that we believe are intended to protect us. Well, I used to think that too. If something's on the shelf, it must be safe to eat. And then I started digging deeper. And some of these things I thought, oh my gosh, I am going down this rabbit hole. I am opening up this whole can of worms. And I don't know if I really want to. It's like a whirlwind. I remember I started learning about all of this when I decided to start a garden. This was years ago. And I was looking into the best seeds because if I was going to grow my own food, I wanted to, do it in the best way possible. I wanted to have the best starting point that I could and have it be the healthiest. Well, as I was investigating what kind of seeds to get, I started discovering all of these other potential issues around food. I might have already known about food. I don't remember exactly. There was a lot of stuff that started coming up, and all I wanted to do is find the best place to get seeds. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is becoming a lot more than I bargained for. Anyway, it's good to know. So if you feel overwhelmed, you're not alone, because I felt overwhelmed too. It eventually becomes, a little more manageable. You start to understand better and more easily. So don't run away just because it feels hard right now. Anything that you're learning that's new might feel hard at first, might feel overwhelming, and I can assure you that you can get a handle on it. So stick around. So the agencies that are there to protect us, supposedly, often have what's called a revolving door with the corporations that are putting out products. So there's not like a separation of interests, right? Sometimes they have a conflict of interest. Maybe they go from a federal agency to a corporation, or they go from the corporation to the agency back to the corporation, or maybe another one in the industry. So they might be inclined to approve something that isn't totally safe because eventually they're going to benefit from that financially. It could happen. It does happen. And we can see that. So I'm not going to get into any names here. You can do your own investigating and you can see where members of agencies like the FDA have also been CEOs or in other corporate positions with companies that manufacture food products or other products that are associated with the food industry, with the farming industry. So check it out and you'll see. Okay. All right. So that's just one note in this episode. So we're not going to do a deep dive on that one thing, but that is something to consider. So you think, hey, it's on the shelves, it's safe, it's been approved by this government agency, so it must be all good. But that's not necessarily true because they might have conflicting interests that led to them approving a product that isn't completely safe for us, and their priorities are screwed up, to say the least. The other thing that is conditioning is reading the labels and all the marketing. The front labels of products really very often have zero meaning. You might see something like extreme health or natural or something that's even in the name of the product that makes you think that it's healthy. There's even psychological triggers with colors of packaging and different ways of packaging and just the look, the feel, like the graphical representations, like maybe there's a leaf, there's green, that sort of thing. And it kind of gives you this subconscious indication that it's a healthy product, and that's not necessarily true. So always turn the package over and read the ingredients. Even I've seen a lot of people look at the numbers, like the nutritional info, and that doesn't necessarily give you a full picture either. The ingredients list is where it's at. So you want to take a look at that, and I have other resources on how to do that. I'll be doing an episode on food ingredients, and probably multiple, because there's a lot of different ones that have a lot of different factors. If you, good rule of thumb, if you struggle to pronounce it, if it's like a super long chemical sounding word, maybe you want to avoid it. Of course, you can just do a quick search online and see if you can get information. If you have a product you really like and it has some kind of big word in it and you want to check it out further, check it out. And again, if you've followed me at all, you know I don't say you need to make all these changes at once, or it will be overwhelming. Gradual changes, baby steps, and that's going to lead to sustainable change. The bottom line, though, is don't automatically believe what the front label says, or if a product looks appealing. You know, it looks like, ooh, that label looks nice, it must be healthy. Or there's a leaf on there, so must be healthy. All right, so that's another thing. Trendy diets, too. We're being conditioned with all these trendy diets. You know, maybe your friend Sue lost a ton of weight on keto and she just constantly raves about it. So you're like, wow, that must be healthy. Not necessarily. Maybe it's not the best thing for you also. Whatever fad or trend, and you know, maybe they're not as crazy as they used to be. Like back in the day, there were the cabbage soup diet. There was even a hot dog diet, if you can believe that. Yeah, I think people actually did that, even though it sounds completely ridiculous, and it sounded completely ridiculous back then. People will go to great lengths, try anything, right? And that leads me to one of the next, conditioning things that kind of convinces you, that influences you and makes everything so confusing, is that a lot of times people assume that the word healthy is equivalent to losing weight. Like, something's healthy if you lose weight on it, which isn't really true. For some people, they need to gain weight, or they need to have a different balance of nutrition. Maybe you're at a good weight, but you're what some people would call skinny fat. You're not really healthy. You're just not fat, right? Or you're not overweight. I know people don't like to say, oh, you're fat or you're not fat. Politically incorrect. I'm not in that huge political correctness camp. So if that doesn't float your boat, we might not jive. Anyway, you know, I like to be tactful and sensitive as well. Balance. It's all about balance. We don't have to get ridiculous about it, though. Okay, so just because something allows you to lose weight or facilitates weight loss doesn't automatically mean it's healthy. And that's kind of why I don't really bash on keto too much. However, it does lean towards obliterating an entire macronutrient group, carbs, and it vilifies them. And I'm not a fan of doing that because you need balanced nutrition, generally speaking. And I do know that keto was actually developed for people who had a certain type of epilepsy, and it was shown to help them. At this point, I haven't looked too much into all of that and the studies that back that. However, yeah, you might have a reason to use keto, at least sometimes, for your general well-being. Just for the average person, for your general health or for weight loss, though, I'm not advocating that. I believe in a more balanced approach. I think it's more sustainable. I think for most people it's healthier. Maybe not for everyone, like I said. There might be cases where it is beneficial to do that. Okay, so yeah, just because something facilitates weight loss doesn't make it healthy. And I have said this before. Things like anorexia and bulimia, you're going to lose weight. I think we can all agree that's not healthy. So look at the logic behind what you're believing in and kind of evaluate that. Another issue that I see, or piece of conditioning that could be sabotaging your desire for health or even for weight loss. Those are two separate things again. A lot of times you're looking to achieve both at the same time. It's important to look at them as two different things. Now, say you are looking to lose weight and you have this cheat day mentality, making exceptions. I believe that is getting in your way. That's sabotaging you. Whether your goal is to get healthier or to lose weight or whatever, when you make exceptions on a regular basis, you integrate that as part of your plan, which is what a cheat day does, then you're sabotaging yourself. So when you make exceptions to the diet, not diet in terms of, oh, I'm going to do this diet for a certain period of time, but the way that you eat in general, when you make exceptions to what you're moving towards, then it's probably happening more than you realize. You think, oh, I'm only doing this once in a while, or I'm having a cheat day once a week. Think about that. If you have an entire cheat day once a week and you just eat whatever you want that whole day, you could blow your whole week of healthy eating out of the water. And you're going to be starting back from square zero the next day, right? Even a cheat meal, have some guidelines. I'm not saying you have to be hardcore 100% of the times and eat perfectly. For one thing, there is no perfectly, really. It's going to be different for everyone. The point is, when you start thinking in terms of, I get to have a whole day where I get to eat whatever I want, or even if it's one meal or 1 hour, you might just go completely crazy and eat like 5,000 calories of sugar and artificial stuff that is definitely not good for you, unquestionably not good for you, and sabotage yourself. So, for example, I like to have coffee, I like it to taste good, and I started using creamer occasionally because it was around, because some of my other family members would have it, like when we went camping. And yeah, it tastes good. It also has a lot of garbage ingredients in it. So I've experimented with some different things to, get away from doing that. I started, probably my best bet is honey with cocoa powder and a little almond milk. It's not as creamy as I'd like it. Maybe coconut milk will be a better like cream option. Or I really don't mind using whole milk actually. We just don't often have that around because the only thing I would use it in is my coffee. So the point is, we don't all like, I'm not perfect. Yes, I eat artificial stuff sometimes, and I'm working towards not doing that. There was a time when I didn't at all. Maybe eating out, maybe. I was really diligent about it. Okay, so another thing that happens is you go to the expensive so-called healthy grocery stores and you assume, okay, I'm here at this store that's known for being healthy, and I shouldn't have to worry about what I'm buying here. It's going to be healthy because I got it at this store. That's not true. Those stores carry conventional products. They carry conventionally grown produce, everything. They carry stuff with artificial ingredients, etc. So I went to one of these stores one time. I was in the checkout line and there was a man checking out in front of me, and he asked the cashier if something about whether the store carried products with artificial ingredients or something like that. And she said, nope, everything in here is free of any kind of artificial ingredients of any kind. And I had to speak up because this guy was actively asking and wanting to know. So I said, wait a minute. I said, excuse me. I said, that's not actually true. And she said, well, what do you mean? What ingredients do we have that are artificial? And I said, well, your almond milk has carrageenan in it, which is MSG. And then her response was just, well, it depends on what you consider artificial. And I was like, yeah, I guess it does. But if someone's asking, then they probably consider something like that artificial. So, yeah, and then another time at another one of these types of stores, different company, I was looking for organic pinto beans in the dried bulk section. So I asked a kid that worked there, and he said, I asked him, do you have organic pinto beans? Because all I saw was natural pinto beans, which means nothing. And he said, oh, kind of looked around. He goes, well, we have these natural pinto beans. It's the same thing. And I don't even think I bothered. Maybe I said, it's not. And I didn't explain it to him. I just didn't get them and moved on. So anyway, you assume if you go to one of these more expensive, so-called healthy grocery stores, that anything you get from there is going to be healthy, quote unquote. And it's not. There's so many myths, misinformation, misconceptions. There's a lot of confusion. So maybe you don't know what to do, or even worse, I think it's worse if you think you do know what to do and it's wrong, and people are telling you the wrong things and you're believing them. So this affects your wellness in a couple of ways. Let's say, well, probably more than that. Let's say that you think you're eating all healthy and you're actually not. You're consuming something that is sabotaging you in some way, or you have one of these patterns that's sabotaging you. And whether it's weight loss or health in general or your energy or all three, you are not seeing results. So you get frustrated. You're stressed out because you're feeling frustrated, which results in higher cortisol, and then you end up in this loop because high cortisol contributes to weight gain, or at best, not losing weight. And it can also contribute, of course, to other health issues. You might also start feeling hopeless, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything right, it's not working, and you might just start not caring as much, giving up, emotional eating, maybe even experiencing some depression because you're like, I just feel hopeless and I don't know what to do. None of these are good, right? It's not in your best interest. It's not helping you have peak health. It's not helping you have optimal energy. It's not helping you live your best life in any way whatsoever. So, what's important, really, bottom line, is to learn what healthy really is in general and specifically for you. So, I have a real simple rule of thumb. Just get back to basics. Move towards, like I said, don't try to do it all at once. You'll drive yourself crazy. You'll be completely overwhelmed. But move towards a diet that is whole, unprocessed foods. Move away from the processed foods with unrecognizable ingredients. And I know some people might get nitpicky. Oh, everything's processed to some extent. That's not what I mean. What I mean is highly processed foods. I mean, truly, really, the closer to its natural state that it is, the healthier the food is going to be, generally speaking. Of course, then you have conventional versus organic. Does it have pesticides on it? Is there some other product used on the produce to preserve it that might be questionable? Don't try to do it all at once. Don't try to figure it all out all at once. Take one step at a time. If you are drinking a lot of soda, eating a lot of packaged foods, then just start to switch it out one thing at a time. Change your soda to juice. I mean, perfect, ideally water. Not everyone is ready to do that. So take baby steps, whatever works for you. You go all gung-ho, and odds are you're going to backslide and end up being worse off than you were in the first place. So that's the first thing. Logically, our bodies are designed for this, right? Closer to nature, our bodies are designed like from nature, okay? So get your food closer to the natural form. And you're going to be on the right track. Secondly, reduce your stress, because cortisol is totally linked to weight gain, and I will do an episode on that as well. Reduce your stress and shift your mindset. Lighten up. So this is something that I've been doing lately, is not being so serious, not taking things quite so seriously, lightening up, having more fun. Even with serious things, you can lighten things up. You can have a more light, airy, expansive vibe about it, and things tend to flow more easily. It goes better. You feel better. You are not stressed, right? Think about it. When you get serious, you feel kind of tight and dense and stressed. When you have fun and you lighten up and you have this kind of relaxed air about you, don't things tend to go a little more smoothly? You don't feel so uptight about it. I mean, you don't have to run around like a chicken with your head cut off, being stressed and overwhelmed in order to get things done. In fact, you're probably not going to get as much done. You're probably more likely to mess up than if you just tackle whatever task you have, no matter how serious it is, calmly. I mean, I get it. There's some high stress jobs that maybe are a little more crisisy, I guess, something like that. But you can still approach that from a calm approach. And the more calm you are, the more effectively you can do your task, really, no matter what. So I'm not saying eliminate the stress in your life. I'm saying approach it differently. Be lighter. Then when you're not in those situations, when you can make time for things like meditation so that you can get into a relaxed state more easily. I'm not saying you have something really important going on that you have to deal with quickly to go meditate. I'm saying meditate at other times so that if you have a so-called crisis situation come up, you can deal with it. You can deal with it. You can deal with it more effectively without being emotionally triggered, without getting super stressed out, without feeling overwhelmed. And take time for self-care, whatever that looks like for you. Do you want to get a massage? Do you need to spend time in nature? All of the above, other things, whatever. So do that. And then next, I would say, if necessary, if you're really looking at what you're eating, what you're consuming, and you still don't feel right, then you could check for allergies or sensitivities, or of course some other health issue possibly. There's multiple ways to test for allergies or food sensitivities. Muscle testing, go to an allergy specialist, personal experimentation. You could just play around with cutting out certain things if you think, oh, you know what I noticed? If I have dairy, I feel kind of sluggish afterwards. Maybe cut it out for a while and replace it with alternatives and see how you feel. So, all right, contemplation questions for today. This is your journaling exercise to actually implement. What does healthy mean to you? So what does it mean to be healthy? Maybe write down some specifics. Like, what does that look like? What kind of foods? What kind of criteria makes something healthy or unhealthy? List out as much as you can about what that looks like. And then go back and evaluate what you wrote. What assumptions are you making? Are those assumptions logical? Are you making justifications like, oh, this is healthy because, and you know that's not really logical, or it is logical. All right, check it out. And that'll be in the download section so that you can just download the worksheet and work off of there. And then if you enjoyed and got value from this episode, please share it with someone you know who would also get value from it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Much love.